The trauma bay doors slammed open just after midnight at a military hospital in San Antonio, Texas, and the gurney rolled in like a storm no one was ready for. Blood soaked through the sheets, monitors screamed in sharp bursts, and every seasoned professional in the room felt that heavy silence that comes when hope is slipping away. Sarah Whitaker, a quiet nurse known more for patience than heroics, stood frozen for one heartbeat as she saw the young special operations pilot, Michael Torres, barely clinging to life after a classified training accident. Doctors moved quickly but uncertainty hung thick in the air, and whispers spread that nothing more could be done. Before the story continues, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us how one person can change everything. Sarah had spent years working double shifts, learning every protocol she could find, yet she always felt invisible beside the confident surgeons and decorated physicians who commanded the room. Her childhood had been shaped by hardship in rural Ohio, where her mother, a church volunteer named Hannah Brooks, had taught her that compassion sometimes required courage beyond rules. That lesson echoed in her mind as she watched the team struggle to stabilize Michael's collapsing organs. The lead physician, Jacob Reed, ordered standard procedures with precision, but the numbers on the monitor kept falling. Sarah felt an overwhelming pull from memory, a forgotten technique she had pieced together years earlier while caring for disaster victims alongside a retired medic named Caleb Foster. The approach had no official name, no research paper, no approval from hospital boards, just an instinctive method combining positioning, controlled pressure, and rhythmic stimulation designed to coax the body into fighting again. She had never dared attempt it in a high-stakes setting, and the fear of ridicule weighed heavily on her shoulders. As the room filled with tension, Sarah noticed something others had missed, a subtle pattern in Michael's breathing that reminded her of those disaster patients who had responded to unconventional care. The doctors began preparing to call the time of death, and in that moment Sarah felt the crushing weight of doubt. She knew the hospital ran on strict protocols, and stepping outside them could cost her career. Yet she also remembered the countless nights she had prayed for strength to help someone when no one else could. With trembling hands and a voice that almost disappeared under the noise of machines, she asked for 1 minute to try something different. Some staff members exchanged skeptical looks, but Jacob Reed saw a flicker of determination in her eyes and allowed her a brief chance. Sarah moved with focused urgency, positioning Michael's body in a precise alignment, applying targeted pressure to key areas, and guiding his breathing through a rhythm she had practiced silently for years. The room fell strangely quiet as everyone watched. Seconds stretched into eternity. The monitor flickered once, then again, and suddenly the chaotic beeping shifted into a steady, fragile rhythm. Shock rippled across the staff as blood pressure slowly rose and oxygen levels stabilized. Sarah's hands shook with disbelief, and tears filled her eyes as the team rushed back into action, now armed with renewed hope. No one could fully explain what had happened, but everyone knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. In the hours that followed, Michael remained in critical condition, and Sarah wrestled with fear that her unconventional method might face backlash. Rumors spread through the hospital corridors, and some questioned whether she had taken a reckless risk. Yet others began to see her differently, recognizing not only her skill but her quiet bravery. The next morning, as sunlight crept through the blinds, Sarah sat alone in the break room, exhausted and unsure whether she would be praised or disciplined. She thought about her mother's words about faith and perseverance, and she prepared herself for whatever consequences might come. Then something unexpected happened. The hospital administration called her into a conference room where senior officers from the Department of Defense appeared on a video screen. Word of the incident had reached high-level officials because Michael's mission had been tied to sensitive operations. The Pentagon wanted to understand the technique that had brought him back from the edge. Sarah felt small and overwhelmed, yet she spoke honestly about her experiences, her years of observation, and the countless patients who had inspired her to keep learning beyond manuals. Instead of condemnation, she found curiosity and respect. Experts began documenting her method, recognizing that innovation often emerges from those who quietly care the most. Days later, Michael regained consciousness. Though Sarah avoided dramatic attention, she watched from a distance as he began rehabilitation, supported by a grateful family and a team that now treated her as an equal. The once dismissive whispers turned into admiration, and Jacob Reed publicly acknowledged her courage during a hospital briefing. Sarah's journey transformed not only her own life but also the culture around her, reminding everyone that protocols guide medicine, yet compassion and creativity often save lives when rules fall short. Her story spread through military and civilian medical communities, inspiring discussions about balancing structure with human intuition. As Michael took his first assisted steps, Sarah felt a quiet peace she had never known. She realized that the real victory was not recognition or praise but the chance to prove that kindness and persistence could change the outcome even in the darkest hours. The Pentagon's interest eventually led to a pilot program studying unconventional emergency techniques, and Sarah was invited to help train others who felt overlooked or underestimated. She remained humble, continuing to work long shifts and offering comfort to patients who needed someone to believe in them. Before the story reaches its final moments, here is a special request for you watching. Please comment the word hope if you believe that ordinary people can make extraordinary differences. Sarah's journey reminds us that bravery often appears in quiet forms, and that the most powerful breakthroughs come from those who refuse to give up when everyone else loses faith. Her story became a symbol of second chances, showing that one courageous decision can ripple outward to change countless lives. In the end, Sarah stood once more in the trauma bay, not as the invisible nurse she once felt like but as someone who had discovered her true purpose through compassion and resilience. She understood that the real miracle was not a single technique or a phone call from powerful officials but the courage to trust her instincts when another human life depended on it. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because every act of engagement helps stories of hope reach someone who might need inspiration today. And as the hospital lights dimmed and another shift began, Sarah whispered a silent prayer of gratitude, knowing that kindness, faith, and perseverance had turned one impossible night into a legacy that would continue saving lives for years to come.